So I've actually recorded probably 3 or 4 videos worth of actual recordings, but I've just not been happy with how they've turned out. And today is an inopportune time to record, but there's just something in my brain I want to articulate, so I'm going to do my best just to throw it out there and see how it goes. So really what it is that sort of pushed me in the direction of making these videos and this sort of thought process in the first place that got me out of that me bubble, that like nihilistic, everything is shit, like why do anything bubble, is because I'm starting to realize that for me at least, and I think for you too, I think that we in this first world culture are very focused on what we see as our best feature, which is our intellect. And everything that we see and understand and feel and know and love has to be perceivable and seeable and touchable and tangible, which is really just like a love of materialism, right? Like we love our things, which, as I say all this, it's going to be really difficult to talk about this, because how do you talk about things that are not things? What is a thing that is not a thing? We have poor language to deal with this. What am I talking about? So if you look at cultures older than ours, every culture, basically, back in history, had some sort of religion, some sort of spirituality, some sort of voodoo-ish god system that they used to explain things they didn't understand, and it worked out for them, you know? Even if you want to look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, we don't see a whole lot of atheistic cultures which either nobody thought, hey, maybe there's no God, or perhaps there's something to religion that's advantageous to the group that possesses it and understands it and carries it forward in their culture. But, I don't know, at this point, I don't know about you, I just can't believe in God. Like, my brain can't switch into that acceptance of some dude in the clouds or variant of. I can't understand that. I can't formulate an idea in my head, much less have some sort of deep, meaningful, personal relationship with him, her, it, God. Side note, if you can, if you do, more power to you. You go for it. I'm just talking about me here. So for me personally, what got me out of that sort of nihilistic bubble that I was in for quite a while was, I guess, a combination of reading books and doing drugs. Not that I would advocate that as a quick fix to nihilism, but that's what worked for me. And it wasn't the drugs or the books themselves that brought me out of that bubble, but more what I sort of learned under the influence of each of those things. And what I learned is, for me at least, there's something in me that is not satisfied with brute materialism. It's not satisfied with the fact that, like, yeah, heat death of the universe, why do anything? And there's a lot to unpack, and several videos potentially down the road, somewhere along the line, where you can just unpack, ethics and materialism and atheism. That's a very interesting discussion to have, but I'm going to refrain from that right now. Generally, I understand that I'm speaking to what are mostly materialists as a half materialist, half I don't knowist. I'm gonna do my best to sort of bridge the gap here. So my sort of line of thinking went like this. I'm just a collection of molecules, inorganic matter and organic matter, bacteria, human cells. Did you know that there's 10 times more bacteria cells in the human body than human cells? That is... I'm this big, crazy mix of a bunch of molecules and bacteria cells and particles and minerals and stuff like that. And wow, all of a sudden something happens that we don't really understand from a materialistic standpoint called consciousness. And all of a sudden, all these crazy molecules and bits think they're all one thing. They are somehow self-aware in an illusory sense that they are one, but can't conceive of themselves as individuals. Strange, but anyway, let's go with benefit of the doubt. That's the way it is. Sure, materialism can potentially explain that. But then my thought process kind of went along the lines of what I suspect people talk about when they say ego death, which I've never experienced, but I could sort of do some mental gymnastics and think, like, what if you did not have a confined identity or an identity at all? Okay, that is what is really the case, right? Because you are not you. You are just a happenstance collection of molecules and stuff like that. That just basically is fooled into thinking it's one big person. But I guess just sort of following that rabbit hole, like, okay, what I call me is an illusion, but me identifying it as an illusion means that an elusive illusion is calling itself an illusion. And that was sort of me popping the bubble, I guess, with that question, like, what do you do with that? Like, so you're potentially an illusion, calling an illusion an illusion. For me, at least, life to me is dealing with a series of illusions. So you've got an illusion calling an illusion an illusion. You have to come to the point where you understand that if you are going to say or be anything in life and act as a unit or as a human agent or anything like that, you're basically making the assumption and saying, yes, it is true, I'm gonna play along with this illusion and be a human and be myself. So yeah, when you get to that point of like mental masturbation where you're like, oh, I'm an illusion, calling an illusion, that's a really chaotic state, right? Like there's nowhere you can really inhabit. You can't really do anything because as soon as you go to do that action, it's like, oh, well, why do it, right? Like, because it is just illusory. You might as well do this illusory thing that gives you pleasure, then you end up basically an animal, just doing animal things, being like, yes, hedonism, right? So really what I'm getting at, I guess, is that I have made the assumption that I exist. So put a little bit more simply, I guess I'm saying that if you are going to point anywhere in life and say anything is anything, you have already made the assumption that there is something that is pointing. You are a pointer. You are someone who is deciding things. You are making decisions. And if you're a material rationalist, you're basically sort of accepting that one illusion. And if you're going to accept one illusion, why not give some credence to some other crazy illusions? And what I'm not saying here is, okay, so if you decide you exist, you have to accept God and go to church and be a good Christian. Like, no. That's a whole lot of discussions. That's a whole lot of videos for a whole lot of different times. But what I am kind of saying is that if you are in this mindset of like, well, nothing matters really when you get down to it, I think that right there's a flaw in that thinking. And I'm speaking as someone who was in that thought process for a very long time, very well entrenched in that thought process. And the assumption is that, well, if nothing matters, you have to have something that can interpret it not mattering, which is you, so you exist, so now what? So yeah, are you going to accept just that one illusion and just be like, just once. Illusions? Yeah, just once. Or are you going to be like, well, fuck, I'm an illusion, I don't know a whole bunch of stuff. I've been fooled already. Thinking you exist is being fooled once, and once you're fooled once, it's just a matter of being fooled again. So, what application could all of this possibly have? Well, you look at our society today. That's a sentence that my English teacher told me never ever to write, is in today's society, because it just sounds stupid and what does it even mean? But you look at first world stuff, you look at that, I think now last video I put up like a month ago, where I'm like, yeah, things seem pretty shit for us first worlders because we got everything and we want to kill ourselves. And for me, I'm starting to entertain the idea that perhaps that's because it's this illusion that's trying really hard to decide there's no more illusions, and maybe we just gotta not let ourselves be fooled, not just be stupid, but be open to stuff. Like, if you have a crazy dream, maybe sit there and think about it. Maybe go ahead and start meditating. There's all sorts of scientific benefits to that stuff, and also it's got some very heavy religious aspects, so that's like a nice middle ground to sort of entertain that stuff. So I guess, why is this like a, 17:58 already recording time, but all of this could just be, ignore everything, TL semicolon DR, just go out and kind of explore and be open to shit and don't think you know everything, because you might, but you probably don't.